They say you never really know someone until the mask slips. And in this case, the mask had been glued on for 30 years. She called herself Mrs. Gloria Hawthorne, respected, admired, a pillar in the wealthy, tight-lipped neighborhood of Crestwood Hills. Big church hat, Sunday potlucks, always the first to organize a fundraiser and the last to leave a prayer circle. But behind the lace gloves was a woman running from something so dark it twisted her very soul. What nobody knew, what nobody could know, was that Gloria Hawthorne was never real. Her maid, Ayanna Brooks, was the only one who saw the cracks. 22, quiet, ambitious, fresh out of community college. She scrubbed those marble floors like her dreams depended on it. Because they did. She wanted to be a nurse, and she just needed this job to get by. But every time she clocked in, she felt something was off. Gloria had no family photos, no past. Her stories never added up. She'd say she grew up in Connecticut, then switch and mention a Brooklyn childhood the next week. One day she was a retired opera singer, another day a former fashion designer. Every week the lies changed, but the cold stare remained. That stare that made Ayanna feel small, less than, invisible. Until one night, Gloria snapped. Ayanna came in late, just 5 minutes, but Gloria greeted her with silence, then poured a glass of wine, stared her down, and said, "You people never change. Always late, always ungrateful." Ayanna froze, but it was what Gloria said next that cracked the facade. "You're just like your mother. A disappointment." How did she know her mother? Ayanna never mentioned her family, ever. Something was wrong, very wrong. That night, Ayanna stayed behind after her shift. She snuck into the study, opened the locked drawer Gloria always hovered near. Inside were hundreds of old IDs, different names, different faces, but all her, Gloria, but not Gloria. Passport stamps from Berlin, Argentina, even Russia. But one folder stopped Ayanna cold. It was labeled University of Tulane, Maria Thatcher, 1988. A photo of a young black woman, bright eyes, short natural, just like Ayanna's, and a sticky note with her name on it. Daughter! Her whole body went numb. Was Gloria her mother? The next day she confronted her, but Gloria didn't yell, didn't deny it. She laughed, a slow, eerie, hollow laugh. "You think I'm your mother? Oh, baby girl. Your mother's been gone a long, long time. But I knew her. Intimately." Ayanna's hands trembled. Gloria leaned in close, whispering like a demon in silk. "She took everything from me. And now, so will you." From that day on, Ayanna's life turned into a living nightmare. The calls to nursing school, suddenly lost. Her paycheck, delayed, then vanished. A noise complaint got her evicted from her apartment, even though she wasn't even home. Gloria was unraveling her from the inside. But why? Ayanna dove deeper, researched Maria Thatcher, found out she was a whistleblower, a lab technician at a chemical research facility in the 90s. She exposed illegal experiments on black communities in the South, and right before she testified, she vanished. Case unsolved. Body never found. Gloria wasn't just hiding, she was erasing. Ayanna took what little she had and went to the police. They shrugged it off, called her emotional, said Gloria Hawthorne was a fine woman, a donor to the sheriff's campaign. Ayanna realized then, this woman had buried the truth for 30 years, and now she was coming for her. But the thing about underdogs, you push them too far. They stop running. Ayanna didn't back down. She hacked into Gloria's smart home system, installed hidden cameras, audio trackers, and what she captured would shatter Crestwood Hills. Gloria, drunk, talking to herself, bragging, boasting. They called me a ghost, but I made myself a queen. I watched her die, and I became her. And now her brat wants justice? Let her try. Ayanna uploaded the footage to a burner account, sent it to a retired detective who worked Maria's case. 1 week later, SWAT surrounded the mansion. Gloria tried to run, but tripped over her own designer heels, screaming, "I built this life! I deserve this! I am Gloria Hawthorne!" But the mask was already off, and beneath it was a woman named Lena Cross, former lab researcher, disgraced, accused of sabotage, Maria's rival, the one who had everything to lose when Maria blew the whistle. She faked her death, stole Maria's identity, lived off her stolen legacy, until the daughter came knocking. The courtroom was packed. Ayanna sat stone still, eyes locked on the woman who haunted her life. Gloria, no, Lena, smiled at her, unapologetic, psychotic. But this time, she wasn't in control, and when the guilty verdict dropped, the applause outside the courthouse shook the pavement. Ayanna got her license. She graduated, started her own clinic in honor of her real mother, Maria Thatcher. The truth was out. Justice had finally come, or so she thought. Because 1 month later, a letter arrived. No return address. Inside, a photo, her clinic, circled in red ink, and a note, scrawled in the same handwriting from Gloria's old journals. "Did you really think it was just me?" The letter sat in her trembling hands. One photo, her new clinic, circled in red ink. And that note, "Did you really think it was just me?" Ayanna thought the nightmare ended when Lena Cross, the woman who stole her mother's life, was sentenced to 40 years. But evil doesn't vanish. It mutates. And Ayanna was about to discover her mother's past wasn't buried. It was watching her. She called the police. Again. They sent a patrol. Nothing. No fingerprints. No leads. Just a single surveillance video. A figure in a long coat, face obscured. But the way they moved, deliberate, confident, like they knew her, or worse, owned her. Ayanna kept pushing. She refused to run. She set up cameras, hired private security, but the messages kept coming. A rose taped to her office door, a childhood photo of her mother, torn in half, a whisper over the clinic's phone line. "Your mother never finished what she started, but you will." She returned to her mother's old university records, Tulane, 1980s. Dug deeper into the research lab scandal. It wasn't just about chemicals. It was a covert sterilization program. Unethical experiments on black women under the guise of free health trials. Maria Thatcher tried to expose it all, but she was silenced. And Lena Cross was just one of many. Ayanna found a file labeled Project Rebirth. List of names, funding sources, government tags, and next to the top one, scribbled in faded ink, "She knows too much. Erase her bloodline." That's when it hit her. This wasn't about revenge. This was a cover-up. Her mother was the match. Ayanna was the fire. And someone still wanted it snuffed out. She reached out to Detective Miles Dorsey, the retired cop who helped bring Lena down. He was the only one who believed her. But when she showed him the file, his face went pale. "I've seen that symbol before," he muttered. He pulled out an old case file. 1993. An unsolved arson. Woman burned in her car. No ID. On the wreckage, the same Rebirth seal. That woman was a journalist. She'd been investigating the same lab Maria worked at. Another silenced voice. Another buried body. Ayanna realized they never stopped. They just changed faces. One night, Ayanna got a ping on her motion detector. She rushed to the back of her clinic, and there, standing in the shadows, was a woman. Older, ashy white dreadlocks, eyes locked on hers. She said only one thing before disappearing into the alley. She wasn't the only one who wore the mask. Ayanna checked the tapes. The woman's face was familiar. She ran it through facial recognition. Got a hit. Dr. Evelyn Rusk, ex-biologist, co-founder of the lab. Disappeared in 1991, presumed dead, but alive, watching. Ayanna knew what she had to do. She took a blood sample from Lena Cross before she was transferred to prison, ran a DNA comparison against her own, expected nothing. But what came back? Alta Sexagalfierd's procent match. Lena wasn't her mother, but she was her aunt, Maria's sister, twisted, obsessed, envious. And now, Ayana had proof, but so did they. That night, a box was delivered to her doorstep. Inside, a cassette tape, a torn piece of Maria's lab coat, and a USB drive. She plugged it in. Static. Then a distorted voice. "You've traced the roots, Ayana, but the tree is still standing, and the branches reach further than you can imagine." A new file popped up. The culling, Phase 2. A list of 47 names, doctors, CEOs, politicians, some of them still in power today. Ayana stared at her reflection. This wasn't just her story anymore. This was war. And she wasn't running, not this time. But just as she turned off her computer, a flashlight hit her window. Footsteps, a knock at the back door. Then another letter slipped underneath. This one read, "You found the roots. But what will you do when they start digging you up?" Then the power cut out. Her phone screen lit up with one word, run. The clinic was pitch black, power out, phone buzzing. Ayana could hear her own heartbeat. She'd faced lies, survived betrayal, unearthed crimes buried for decades. But now, the evil she exposed was knocking at her door, and it wasn't wearing a mask anymore. She grabbed the letter, the USB, her keys, raced to the back exit, only to find it jammed, bolted shut from the outside. Someone wanted her trapped, not to kill her, but to watch her panic. She dialed Detective Dorsey, voicemail, then she called again. This time, someone answered, but it wasn't him, just a voice. "You really thought you could untangle roots this old without getting dirt under your nails?" Then a laugh, distorted, familiar, like Lena's, but deeper, almost masculine. She remembered the DNA test, 68%, not 99. Lena was her aunt, but there was another relative out there. And this voice sounded like him, the man Maria never spoke about, the one missing from every photo, every document, her father. Ayana escaped out the side window. Rain hit her face like broken glass. She made it to her car, drove, no destination, just distance, until she reached the edge of the city. And there, waiting by a streetlight, Dr. Evelyn Rusk, still alive, still watching, and holding a folder labeled Project Rebirth, Phase 3. They sat in an abandoned diner. Evelyn lit a cigarette, didn't speak for a full minute, then finally said, "You're braver than Maria, but also more dangerous." Ayana demanded answers. Who started Rebirth? Who backed it? And who was her father? Evelyn slid over the folder. Inside, a picture. A man in uniform, black ops, government seal on his lapel, handsome, cold, eyes like hers, labeled Lieutenant Mason Creed. Evelyn whispered, "He wasn't just your father. He was the architect. He funded the experiments, dated Maria to keep tabs on her. She found out, threatened to expose him, but couldn't, because by then, she was pregnant. Maria ran, changed names, hid Ayana's birth, tried to escape both Lena and Mason, but evil doesn't let go of its own blood." Ayana sat frozen. She was the child of the whistleblower, and the monster she tried to stop. Every step she took toward justice was another step deeper into her own DNA. Evelyn said, "You think Lena was a monster? Mason makes her look like a paper cut. He's still out there, and you just woke him up." Ayana's breath caught. Then Evelyn said the words that shattered her world. "He's not hunting you. He's grooming you. Because when he dies, you're next in line." Project Rebirth wasn't a project. It was a legacy, and Ayana was now its heir. The USB from the box had one final locked file. Evelyn gave her the code. Ayana plugged it into her laptop. The file opened. A map. coordinates, and a timestamp for 72 hours from now. Labeled, Genesis Facility, Reawakening Protocol. Ayanna asked, "What is this?" Evelyn leaned in close. "It's where it all began, and where it ends. If you want to burn the roots, you'll have to walk into the soil yourself." Ayanna closed the folder, looked out the diner window, night stretching like a noose. She had 3 days. 3 days before they activated something called reawakening. 3 days to face the man who haunted her blood. 3 days to decide, run, or finish what her mother started. But as she left the diner, her phone vibrated. Unknown number, one new message, a photo of Evelyn, dead, tonight's date, and 3 words. Too late already. Ayanna didn't sleep, didn't blink. Evelyn was dead. The last living key to the truth, taken just hours after handing her the map to the Genesis facility. 72 hours had become 36, and Ayanna knew this wasn't about fear anymore. It was blood for blood. She called Dorsey again. This time, he answered, but his voice was different, flat, cold, like a man reading from a script. "I told you not to dig, Ayanna. Now you've unearthed a family tree with no roots, just corpses." He hung up. She stared at the phone, mouth dry. She'd trusted him. He helped her lock up Lena. He knew the truth about Maria, but maybe that was the plan all along. Keep her close, feed her hope, then lead her right to the slaughter. The betrayal ran deep. She traced the Genesis coordinates to the bayou, Louisiana, the place where her mother disappeared before Lena took her identity. She rented a car, packed a burner phone, and took one final step into the darkness her family tried to bury. Fog smothered the swamps like ghosts of the forgotten. She followed the map to a rusted fence. Beyond it, an abandoned bio-research facility, covered in vines, but humming with power. They were still here, still operating, still hiding behind the silence of generational privilege. She hacked the gate keypad with a code Evelyn left behind. Inside, rows of files, photos, charts, women, most of them black, labeled with numbers, dates, outcomes. This wasn't just a lab, it was a womb of war crimes, and on the back wall, a photo of Maria, pregnant, tied down, tears in her eyes. Behind her, Lieutenant Mason Creed, smiling. Ayanna collapsed. Everything she thought she was born in violation. But she stood, because her mother's story didn't end in chains. It ended in her, and Ayanna was not her father's child. She heard footsteps, then a slow clap. Out of the shadows, Mason Creed, older, grayer, but unmistakable. That voice, like fire over ice. "Welcome home, Ayanna, or should I say, Subject 47B? She froze. He continued. "Your mother was a rebel. You're a weapon, a perfect mind, medical brilliance, media charm. You've already infiltrated the system. All you had to do was say yes." She stared him down. No fear, just fire. "I'm not your creation." He smiled. "You're right. You're your mother's vengeance." He pulled a syringe from his coat. "But vengeance dies too." He lunged. She fought, struggled, kicked the table. Files flew. She stabbed him with a broken test tube. He screamed. Blood poured. But he wasn't down. Not yet. He laughed through the blood. "You think killing me ends this? There's already a replacement. You're not the only child we made. You're just the only one who figured it out." Ayanna hit the red button marked Purge. Alarms blared. Lights turned red. She backed away as flames began licking the lower labs. Mason stumbled, crawling after her. "You won't escape. We built you to obey." She turned one last time. "Number U built me to survive." Then she shut the steel door on his screams. The facility exploded behind her as she crossed the swamp. Ash rained like justice. For Maria. For every woman buried in silence. Ayanna collapsed on the dirt road, tears streaming. but she smiled, because for the first time in her life, the nightmare wasn't inherited, it was defeated. News reports the next morning. Massive fire at abandoned research facility, ties to Cold War experiments under federal review. Whistleblower leaks shocking evidence to international tribunal. New hero emerges from the shadows of conspiracy. But back at the prison, a letter arrived in Lena Cross's cell. Inside, a photo of Ayanna standing outside the fire, with 3 words written across the top: "The legacy lives." Ayanna burned the lab, took down her father. But what happens when she learns there's another sibling, still loyal to Project Rebirth? What would you do if your only sibling was raised to be your enemy? Could Ayanna face her own blood again? Or is this war just beginning? Please subscribe now, because the story ain't over. Not by a long shot.